Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you very much for the invitation, Taco. Um, it's not my domain where I normally am in the community platforms and the business whatever, so it was very interesting presentations. And I also really, well, even pleasantly surprised about the technicalities everybody had on software and integrations. So really nice. I'll be talking about something completely different, but all the less always the same. Um, I had a workshop with Taco, I think, and the team earlier this year. It was about platform dynamics and what can you learn from all the successful platforms which we have on our phone, on the online, and how can you use that to improve your own platform and especially traction, engagement, and the number of users, because I think that's one of the key challenges for any platform. How do you attract the users, the participants, and how do you keep them there, and how do you keep them engaged together without you pushing content? And I think that's one of the key things which is crucial for any platform where it is. Um, I think this is one of a nice story to start with. Is Check. It's a homework support platform in the US. So on the one hand, you have teachers, and on the one hand, you have students. And the students, they need help, and the teachers, they will help them with their homework. It went really well because students are normally lazy. They need a bit of help. And the tutors, they will be glad to help, and they'll get a payment for it. And suddenly, in 12 months, the value of the platform was halved. What do you think what happened? AI, indeed, indeed. The platform was very successful, was one of the market leaders in the US, but suddenly ChatGPT came around and all the students said, wait, that goes much faster. I don't have to wait for my tutor anymore. So the tutors were left alone, so the subscription stopped and the platform was halved, and only because they were using, they didn't really integrate AI in the tool. So they had a perfect platform, and in 12 months it was gone. And there you see also one of the powers of AI is it can really disrupt your platform. And I think it's a power, but also a disruption itself. Until now, I think also really like the presentation this afternoon. We see it as something we can use, but it can also really disrupt platforms, especially community-driven content platforms, because AI, especially ChatGPT, is about creating content with content. And if you're sharing content, well, ChatGPT can also do that. Perhaps not the right content, but who knows? Well, been working for different companies, always on the product strategy part, and really enjoying to, well, I'm curious, but also really like to be involved in workshops, use the knowledge and the brains of everyone to solve problems and solutions in the product space. Um, yeah, I think this is just a small overview of all the platforms there are in the world, and they all are successful, and they all have platform powers, and they all use different platform powers, but there is also a continuity in it, and it's been studied by many. And it started in 2002 with one of the first papers here. If you will get the slides, you can look it up. It's quite technical, but it was 2002, that's 23 years ago, almost 24 years ago. They already said it will disrupt the world. And since then, hundreds of papers were there. And still, we see that it's very much a challenge to use all the insights of the platform dynamics and powers for your own, to adapt it and to use it. Hence, I created a small platform business model canvas with 8 blocks, and I will go over them and select 2 of them and hope I will give you some insights. Well, first of all, I think everybody spoke a lot about governance. I think for any platform, the governance is key. Without a good governance, people won't feel safe on the platform, or there will be trolls, for example, of the platform, and people will leave en masse. So governance is something which is really critical. And hence, always one of the first things to think about. The other thing which is other helps with platforms is open-close platforms. What are these? An open platform is, for example, Android. Everybody knows it, has it on the telephone, and a closed platform is at Apple Store. An open platform, everybody can enter, but hence you also have a lot of security issues, for example, and Apple is basically closing the platform and you have to apply to it. I think this is also a bit the same what I've heard today. If you have a community, who can enter and who cannot? And do you want everybody in or not? And hence, it's one of the key questions in your design of your platform we have to think about. Metrics, I think this is also something which which was passed by. When is your platform successful? About the number of people who are actually a member of your platform, or the number of posts, or the reactions, or there are many success factors. Each platform has their own, but it's critical to think about it and each time to think, is this really moving the needle? Is this really making my platform successful and creating value? For the most of the business model platforms, you have a disruption model. A platform will disrupt something because it will make things easier, going faster. I think you'll see, for example, in the past that the media, especially with the newspapers, news outlets, they were really struggling with a platform like Twitter or X in the past. Suddenly everybody could make a photo, everybody could post immediately what they saw, or there was an accident happened, and they were out of work almost. And then you saw that also the news outlets and also the websites, they were starting to use local people. Just please send me your information. Have you experienced this? And they're basically trying to pull in that news immediately from the ground without having journalists. And that's changing it. That's changing that whole sector. For us now, it's very normal. We don't even think about it anymore, how it has changed. At least if I look at my son, he's 11 years old. His world is a platform. It's a gaming platform in this case, but still. Uh, and the other thing we have, what really is something to always take into consideration, a successful platform has a network effect. Each interaction will create more value for all the others on the platform. And I think this is also something which sometimes is a little bit forgotten because it sounds so useful. You have a nice mission. You want people to be engaged. You have a message to tell, and people can respond and you can share knowledge. But do people actually want that? Do they have time for it? What is the incentive for them to do so? And I think this is something with the network effect you can really look, and that's also where you as a platform administrator or platform organization, you can see if you will have to push for all your content and that people will basically start using it or not, or you're struggling with it, or it goes automatically. This is also something which you can design and test constantly. And I think also something like the open social platform, you can use tools, and especially now also with AI, you can start measuring it and see what's happening and where you have also some distractors, for example. And the one with is a launch and chicken egg solution. I think today also, how do you launch your platform? When do you do that? Well, I have on the last part of the presentation 8 strategies which you can use or cherry pick of them and see how you can do that. And then you have the chicken and egg problem is as well. How do you get people to your platform and start using it? And in the core, we have the core interaction. And I think that's my favorite. And that's perhaps also the most difficult one to construct. And at the same time, the one you always say, aha, yes, that's normal, it's logical. A core interaction, every platform has a core interaction. Without it, your platform has no value at all. A core interaction in any platform you have is free. You never pay for it. For example, if you have a dating platform, people can subscribe, can pay money for it, but the core interaction is that you have a profile, the other person has a profile, and then you get that profile in front of you and say, hey, this could be a match. That specific task, that specific interaction is free. You never have to pay for it. Perhaps you have to pay as a curation to get into the platform, but then afterwards it stops. And I think that's something which for all of you, especially with all the platforms and community platforms, is to think about what is my core interaction? What are the people actually coming to do on my platform and who is pushing it? And to basically have a bit of an idea of it, there is, if you have participants plus value unit plus filters, you can discover your core interaction. Well, let's go into the participants. For everyone, that sounds logical, but you have normally 2 sides participants, one who creates content and one who responds on content. And the one who responds can also create content. But if you start looking at the ones who are using your platform, it's very healthy to look at who is creating when and what is the incentive. Because if I start creating content, for example, and in this case, the content could be a post on LinkedIn, for example, or my profile on a dating platform, that is the value unit. And the value unit is not money, but there is a currency connected to it. Because if I post, for example, something on LinkedIn, I really like it if I have a lot of thumbs up. It's vanity, but we all have it a bit. Or there's repost, or I get posts and questions beneath it, or I get new invitations on LinkedIn. All these things will help to create more value for me, and I will think, hey, next time I'll do it again. And I think that also is with at least what I've heard this afternoon, with everybody trying to connect and share the information. How do you reward the people that when they share information on that platform? Is that just an okay? I think I heard today one really good one. He was invited to Brazil to host a conference. Well, that was perhaps the most ultimate one, but do all the others also know that he was invited? Because if they don't know, they don't have that same incentive. And perhaps for that person, it was also a surprise, a pleasant surprise, I think. And if you have then discovered or basically identified your participants, you know what the value unit is, for example, a post or information or a newspaper or could be anything. Then you also have a filter. And what is a filter? That's an algorithm making sure that the participants can basically find each other and basically do something with that value unit. I think everyone has bought something perhaps once on eBay or a similar kind of platform. I'll put something in on eBay, and then someone else is looking for it. And then if everything goes well, perhaps they will pick it up or I'll send it over. The only way that that other person somewhere in this country or even another country has found my product, which I've put on sale, is via that filter, that algorithm. And I think that is one of the things which I was really interesting also to hear today is with the Gaia AI solution, you can really start improving probably filters, especially if you have so much content in different groups. That will definitely help. But that's only then you have discovered or designed your core interaction. Um, it's not enough. Nothing is never enough in a platform. It's very difficult and a lot of work to have a good, successful platform. Therefore, you also have to think about the pool. How do you get people to the platform? A little bit later, I will talk about that. And then you have to facilitate. And facilitate, I think we've also heard that this afternoon. You need to help people, you need to maintain the platform, and you need to make sure that the algorithms are in place and that people can come, and if there are complaints, that you can solve them. But you need to facilitate that those two participants or groups of participants can find each other and that there is a match. And that when the match is then you're successful. I think the dating platform is one of the most simple ones. I get a profile. I'm very happy, keen, also with vanity, with, oh, nice, is my picture okay? Did I put in all the nice wordings? And then I also get a profile, get also an invitation. And then I have to find online, first you have a chit chat, and then in the end, perhaps you'll have an actual date face to face. Probably a bit strange after all that online work. But if that goes well, you have a match. And for a dating platform, this model is a bit strange because if you have a good match, you won't return to the platform. So it's basically an ending story. But well, there are still a lot of platforms, dating platforms, and they keep on being popular. So I think a lot of the matches they don't succeed in the end. So you return to the platform for that. um, for that. So I think also for this part, I think also for all the platforms you are basically hosting and trying to push, think about it as a very careful designed architect for how the participants are engaging. There is not one fit, one right size, and to say that everybody will come immediately to your platform. From the moment that you are noticing that you are pushing your content to your users, then you're almost becoming a store, an online store. And Nike has a very nice platform, but it is a store. You can do a lot of things over there, but in the end, they will push their products to you, and they can have a lot of other tools around it, but they push it. And there is not another runner or another sport athlete who will push their product or their training methods via their platform in it. There is a community, they say, but it's product pushed. It takes them a lot of time, effort, and also resources to maintain that. But yeah, everybody pays for it, so they have a business model. And I think this is also one of the things for community platforms, is really to think about the design, how you design your platform to make sure that people find each other, that they know what the value unit is, and uh, also give them rewards. That's something which is key. Um, I just talked about this. And then, yeah, the chicken egg problem. I think this is one of the key things. Also talked about to Taco about it. If a new customer is onboarded, you will inevitably come to this point. How do I attract those new people and users? On the one hand, you have the participants, and you can call them producers of content and services, and the other ones, they are the consumers of content and services. And who was first? You never know. The only way to solve that is that you have to basically focus on both. Perhaps you put a bit more effort in one side, but you can't live without the other. It's like the telephone network. The first telephone, was no value. And if your neighbor had a telephone, perhaps you could give him a call. But how did people start calling each other? So it was really a push, but only when everybody had a phone, you couldn't live without it anymore. So there are 8 strategies to get traction and to solve the chicken egg problem. The first is what they call the follow the rabbit. And it's really something you connect your product or your platform or your mission, you follow it, you put it in a rabbit hole and you start walking and see where it ends. But you choose the rabbit up front. Which is the rabbit which can really help me? For example, if you would have some environmental issues and you want to solve it, or you have a community that wants to discuss it, look for other companies or platforms or location or conferences where you basically can start connecting your product or platform to it, or open it up. The other one is piggyback, and I think this one is quite successful. And basically, well, Netherlands is not really that big, but most people know PayPal. I think that was one of the sources of money for Mr. Musk. But in the beginning, nobody wanted to use it. And they said, how am I going to solve it? Nobody's using PayPal, and we can have merchants, and we can have the ones who are using to pay. It's going to make life much easier, no credit cards anymore. And then they said, well, if we basically going to push it and connect it to eBay, then everybody on eBay will find it easy to pay with PayPal. And I think with a lot of these things, you basically really put your product or your platform, you connect it immediately, integrate it with someone else, and sometimes even start scraping or being very intrusive and get into the product so that they can't go around. I think one of the things with LinkedIn happens nowadays, everybody wants that data. So everybody is scraping. But I think 2 weeks ago, some AI company in New York made it a bit, they pushed it too hard. And LinkedIn, they always check the platform, who's scraping, who's doing what, and they are a bit tolerant, but they don't like it. Of course, it's their data. They're stealing it from everyone, so also it's their data. And they kicked out that company. So everybody who had that company's name in their profile, their account was deleted. The company account was deleted. You couldn't find anyone of that company anymore online. That was basically how they punished them. Without a word saying, but they basically said, well, in the terms and conditions stage, you can't use all the data the way you did. Well, there you are. So piggybacking can also be dangerous if you're then being blocked. The seeding strategy is something which you can also do, and that's basically making sure that you are starting to pay certain users, for example, to use your product. That's really something you can do internally. For example, if you have key users in your community, as I think somebody said, 5% uses really a lot, 95% is just looking and reading a bit, but you don't really know what they're doing. Those 5%, they're the natural users, but if you want to, you can also start rewarding them more and more, and also getting some metrics to it. One-sided, normally you have 2 sides who are going to be interacting, Sometimes you'll specifically focus on one side. Restaurants are, for example, something which you've seen, I think, in all the countries. If you want to make a reservation nowadays, everywhere the same kind of reservation module pops up. Well, that company has a platform for reservations, and they give it away for free to the restaurants, and then in the beginning, and then people start using it, and the restaurant say that's easy, and then slowly the subscription starts. So basically, you pull them in, but you also don't want to go and call the restaurant anymore. You just want to do it online, easy in an email. So this is a little bit with the one-sided part. The marquee, you could also say the influence strategy. You ask influencers to really push your product and to promote it. Sometimes you pay for it, sometimes they get rewards or presents, and I think especially with children, a lot of platforms they are being used to hook children up with nice candy, toys, or other digital products. The one which is, I think, which I saw today here a lot, and I think Taco and the team, you can really be proud. People speak really highly about your product. And I think that's something which you can be really proud of, because these are these people that really like the product, they're using it, and they will basically also promote it. And I think that was really nice. It's, yeah, put it online, because it was really, the compliments were really high, really good. Then the Big Bang adoption, one really big bang. And that's where you look for one moment in time, and then you start presenting to a very group of people that you have a new platform or product online. This is most of the time very expensive on marketing, or you have to look for a very viral moment where you can basically push your product. I think Twitter, formerly X, did that on a festival, and everybody started using it. They did a bet, they were successful, but it's quite difficult, and most of the time it costs a lot of money. And then I think micro-target, that's also something which perhaps will very much of use for the communities also using open social. There are existing communities, and then you start targeting them to use your platform instead of what they're doing at that specific moment. And I think the one Facebook did this when they grew. They used the universities, the students, they already knew each other, they could mail, they could chat, they could even see each other sitting in colleges, and then still they basically pushed them towards the online environment. Yeah, so I hope I'm still in time. It was, but as I said, a successful platform is designed, curated, and maintained. Yeah, and I would say copy and adopt the platform powers to your situation. There is really a big box of tools which you can use, but don't think that the platform will sell itself. You are in the driver's seat. You are the one who's basically creating the design. You are basically also deciding who will use your platform. And if it's not working, you have to adjust your design a bit, because otherwise nobody will use your platform. And I think with all the good initiatives which I heard today, that's not something you want to happen, especially with these community-driven platforms which are being used by the open social. Thank you. It was a lot of information, but
I don't want to hurt everyone. Thank you so much. Appreciated questions. We still have some time.
okay, well, at the end of the day, Taco. So
Yeah, we're saving the best for last, right?
well, you have still a panel discussion. Looking forward to it.
So when you look at, can we go back maybe to the, yeah, sorry, to the theoretical model? Yeah, this one, or maybe one further. We got the. So when you look at community, because we don't have, like when you say platforms, Netflix has movies and Twitter has posts, but when we look at communities, there's so much happening often, and there's maybe events, there's long form content, there is sometimes short form content. What would you say that is the core interaction that online communities should focus on, or is it not able to say and really depends per platform? Because I think that is sometimes unclear or unfocused?
A very good question, thank you. The core interaction, you always start designing one by the time. And I think from now we are so used to platforms that we see so many interactions, so many formats, so many value units basically from film, post, events, comments, you name it. Everything is coming all at the same time. But basically start with the first most important one where you started. Sometimes you can switch between your primary core interaction, but don't think that everything at the same time is your core interaction. There are all value units, but people will basically come for one most important thing always. And then if you have established that one, you can basically build another layer on top of it. And then another one. And I think most of the people will probably use LinkedIn, so I think that's easy to use. They once had, it was just a directory like a yellow pages for professionals. That meant that I could look up my profile. I would feel good about myself. I was online. I could see your profile. We would be connecting. I was thinking, that's easy, telephone number, and I can connect you without having all the data. But after that, it was not enough because then I had a static page of a lot of contacts, just like I have in my phone directory now. And I said, okay, let's start using posts. So basically I could give status updates and then I could say what I was doing and I'll get likes and everyone, and it was going further. From that moment on, everybody could start seeing what you were doing in your professional career. And recruiters also came in because they said, hey, this is a good way to look if there's a good match. So then you had another interaction on top of it. And then when the recruiters were there and people were basically saying, oh, perhaps I get a new job. Also company said, oh, perhaps I have to use it as a advertisement space, not only to promote my company, but also my products, perhaps because it's all in a business space. So each time you get a layer on top of it, and that's how it grows. And I think all the things in your question you said about is perhaps short content, long content, papers, videos, well, you name it. Each time think about what is the content you're posting and what is the specific reason for it, and is it working well, yes or no. You have to measure it. Does it contribute to the success of my platform? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, Alex.
I see a nice smile for a question. So
If we look at the different platform starting methods that you showed, then I think a lot of these were pioneered by companies that we now look at where we go, maybe that's a little bit ethically questionable. How do we deal with that, and how do we make sure that when we try to start something like this, we do so in an ethical manner?
yeah, but I still think that a lot of the things which you've done, you can say unethical, but I still think if you basically connect your platform or your community to another community, for example, then basically you both profit from it. You both grow. The question is, what is the what is your reason for connecting, for example, your community to a bigger community? Is that just to grow your own community or to bring across your message? Most of the well, at least what I've heard so far with the communities, they have a mission. They want to promote their cause or their purpose. So I don't think it's that unethical. And I also said, look at those examples and see how you can use it. It's just not a one-on-one copy, but I think it gives you a bit of an idea how you can use all these kind of growth strategies basically for kicking off your community. Because the first month, year, is quite difficult to keep that traction. And I think that's also one of the things which I heard this afternoon. How do you do that? Yeah, we've been busy for 2, 3 years for building up the community. Yeah, that's a lot of effort in it. And then what if it didn't, if it fails then after 3 years? So I think it's also a bit more using the power and also the speed to grow a bit faster, because I think nowadays you don't have that much time. People are very busy. They have a lot of distractions. And I think everyone wants to be, well, basically on an app tile now on your phone, and a little bit later in the ChatGTP question bar was probably something like that. So I think it's good to look at what happened back then, 20 years ago, but look at how you can use it and basically adapt to your own situation. I think an ethical, that's also what are your standards? Everybody has different standards, different purpose. But yeah, on the other side, if you could say, this is for Greenpeace, and we want to basically make sure that the whole world is know about this, and it's perhaps going a bit to the edges of what they can do. It's for the cause. Yeah, I can't really say if that's unethical, it's good for the world, or I think that's a philosophical debate. But we already had a philosopher today.
Thank you so much, Emile. Any last question for?
Okay,
Yes.
well,
Any
thank you
last
very much.
words?